Good morning, class. This is your fourth lecture on the topic Constitution Why and How. We will resume our class, what we have dealt yesterday, that about Cabinet Mission Plan and especially the Constituent Assembly. So we will deal more about Constituent Assembly. So let's see. After studying today's topic, you will be able to understand the composition of the Constituent Assembly, then what role did they play for framing of the Constitution, and how we can say that a Constituent Assembly was a representative body. So the first preference for the making of Constituent Assembly was made by Mahatma Gandhi in 1922, and the Nehru Report was the first attempt by the Indians to frame a constitution for their country, and the demand of the Constituent Assembly was the first time conceded by the British government in August offer of 1940. So before it actually came to reality, so many attempts had already met for the framing of the constitution and making of the Constituent Assembly. So finally the Cabinet Mission Plan came to India on February 19, 1946. Salmon Attlee, the new British Prime Minister, declared that Cabinet Mission would be sent to India to facilitate the process of transfer of power. Cabinet Mission arrived in India in March 1946. It consisted of 3 cabinet members. First, Patrick Lawrence. Second, Sir Stafford Cripps. Third, A.V. Alexander. So we have already discussed about it in previous slide, that Cabinet Mission Plan sent to India, and on the basis of that Constituent Assembly was formed. This picture you can see at the background reflects about the idea that structure of Constituent Assembly where different number of people from different communities were sitting together and discussing about the substantive provisions of the Constitution. The British sent a group of officials known as the Cabinet Mission Plan, and the Cabinet Mission Plan formed the Constituent Assembly in December 1946. There was a quiet dispute among the Indian leaders and the partition took place. So what was the dispute? So dispute was between the Hindus and Muslim community. Basically, the leader of Muslim League, Jinnah, wanted a separate nation or separate state for Muslim, that is Pakistan, and Congress was not ready for the theory of partition. Jinnah feared that after the partition, Muslim became minorities in India, but the theory of a partition was not accepted by the Congress, and this created a dispute between these two communities. And there were the members who were elected by Provincial Legislative Assembly, and Congress ensured that all community should get equal recognition in the Constituent Assembly. Definition of Constituent Assembly. How you can define that what was Constituent Assembly? So an assembly of people's representatives with a mandate to draft, approve and promulgate a constitution. So the process of election of Constituent Assembly may be different. Some were elected through proportional representation, some were nominated. So different method may have adopted, but it included all the section
of the society at that time.
Of Constituent Assembly. So the total number of members was 389, and it further divided into British India and princely state. So British India had 296 members and 93 representatives of princely state, and 296 further divided into 292 governors province and 4 chief commissioners province. Chief Commissioner province refers to middle level and minor type of province in British India, not headed by a governor but by a chief commissioner.
Let us understand the composition of assembly in detailed way. There were total 389 seats allotted, and out of 389, 296 seats were for British India and 93 were for princely states. And we have discussed that seats were allotted in proportion to their population. Seats of British province are allotted in proportion to principal communities like Muslim, Sikhs and general. Representatives of each community were elected by provincial legislative members of the same community. Princely states members were to be nominated by king or group of kings. And though you can say that princely state was partially nominated and partially elected body. And most important point is that Mahatma Gandhi and Muhammad Ali Jinnah were not the part of assembly. As a consequence of the partition under the plan of 3rd June 1947, that is also known as Mountbatten Plan, and that is brought up by the British government to accept the partition of British India, and those members who were elected from territories which fell under Pakistan ceased to be the member of Constituent Assembly. That's why the number of members in the Constituent Assembly was reduced to 299, and 284 members were actually present on 24 January 1950 and appended their signature to the Constitution as finally passed. And the member of the Constituent Assembly was not elected on the basis of universal suffrage, but they tried or they attempted a lot to make it a representative body, though in the term of political parties, the Congress dominated the assembly, occupying as many as, but 82% of the seats in the assembly after the partition, it was given to scheduled caste, and the Congress itself was such a diverse party, has 82% of seat, but being diverse in nature, it managed to accommodate almost all shades of opinion within it.
Drafting of the Constitution was done by an assembly of elected representatives, 299, that is after the division or after the partition of the country. It represented the people of India. The assembly was dominated by Indian National Congress, but it had many non-Congress members belonging to different language groups, caste, classes, religions and occupations. The Constitution does not reflect the view of its members alone, it expresses the aspirations of all people. And you must know that we have adopted the Constitution on 26 November 1949. Then the drafting committee chaired by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar prepared a draft constitution for discussion, and it was discussed clause by clause through several rounds of consultation and discussions, but it came into effect on 26 January 1950. Over the last 70 years, no large social group or political question the legitimacy of the constitution. That our constitution maker was so far-sighted that they made all the provision, or they crafted the constitution in such a way that till now it is so relevant to the problems the people are facing, to the needs and aspirations of all the people living in our society.
Making of the Indian Constitution challenges. Obviously, after the partition, everywhere in the country the situation was worst, and it was very difficult for the Constituent Assembly and the framers of the Indian Constitution to draft constitution under such circumstances. The making of the constitution for a huge and diverse country like India was not easy. The country was born through a partition on the basis of religious differences, and the main task was the unification of the princely states. And the makers of the constitution also had anxieties about the present and future of the country. So, making of the constitution was not an obviously an easy task for the framers, because they have to take with them the present and have to relate it with the circumstances of the future as well, so that constitution work smoothly in all those in all those upcoming circumstances. As we know that framing of the constitution under the partition was not an easy task. So here we will see the role of Constituent Assembly. They tried or attempted to frame a constitution which would uplift the downtrodden sections of the society. This meant that providing an assurance to the minorities regarding the protection of their rights, as well as creating a welfare state that could improve their social and economic status. This whole sentence complete the work of Constituent Assembly, that they need to protect the rights of minorities as well as establishment of welfare state where people can improve their social and economic status after facing such problem of religious differences, problem of economic and social diversities. So they were first attempt to make a welfare society. How we can say that Constituent Assembly was a representative body, although the members of the Constituent Assembly were not elected by adult suffrage. There was serious attempt to make the assembly representative. How they did that? The Constituent Assembly was a sovereign body with representatives belonging to different religions like Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs, conservative industrialist, radical Marxist, Hindu revivalist, irrespective of gender and class. And in addition, Assembly had 28 members from scheduled caste. So they tried to make the body Constituent Assembly representative one. So after studying today's topic, you will be able to answer what was the composition of Constituent Assembly before and after the independence. Second, who were the members of the Cabinet Mission Plan? Third, how Assembly was a representative body. Fourth, what is a Constituent Assembly and what role does it play? Fifth, is it necessary to have Constituent Assembly based on adult suffrage? Sixth, what were the challenges to the making of Indian Constitution? So these were some assignment question for today's lesson. Thank you class. Have a nice day.